What's up and welcome to 17 Non. Today we're going to be making chawanmushi. Chawanmushi essentially is a decadent Japanese set savoury egg custard. A savoury egg custard may sound kind of weird, but it's one of those you're gonna go and try right away. This version of chawanmushi is gonna consist of tofu, shiitake, and scallops, and we're gonna top all that with loads of Ikura to take the dish to that next level. And with all that said, let's get straight into this recipe. Welcome back. Today we're gonna be making chawanmushi. The first thing we need to do is make Ichiban Dashi, and the Dashi is what's going to give this chawanmushi all that good umami. First, in a saucepan, let's add 5 dried shiitake mushrooms, 10 grams of kombu, and 800 ml of cold water. And the next step is to extract as much umami from this as possible. Place the Dashi onto a medium to low heat. Then we want to get the temperature of the liquid up to 60 degrees centigrade. And the reason for doing this is that anything above 60 can make the kombu become slightly bitter. When ready, remove the kombu and give it a good squeeze. And after this, turn the temperature up slightly higher and add 8 grams of Bonito Flakes, all katsuobushi. Allow the bonito to make friends with the shiitake for a few minutes and remove from the heat. Keep this to one side and allow the dashi to steep for around 15 to 20 minutes. Now that all that umami is nice and extracted, pass the dashi through a fine sieve. Give it a good shake again and our dashi is pretty much ready. Let the dashi cool to one side and this will play a key role when making chawanmushi. Next, to make a simple broth that we'll add to the chawanmushi towards the very end. In a small saucepan, let's go ahead and add 100 ml of water, 25 ml of light soy, 25 ml of mirin, and we want to infuse the broth with some ginger. Add around 5 grams and place the sauce onto a high heat. Bring the liquid up to a boil and this will help infuse the sauce. At the moment you can see this sauce is pretty thin, but we want to thicken things up the old school way. Dilute some cornstarch with a little bit of cold water to make a slurry. When nice and smooth, we can take this and slowly add it to the sauce. We want to do this whilst the liquid is boiling and do this gradually, as we don't want the sauce to get too thick. When the sauce is slightly thicker, we can go ahead and remove all the sliced ginger. And as for the thickness, this can probably just about coat the back of a spoon. Keep the sauce to one side and we'll reheat this towards the very end. Now to prepare a few things that will make this chawanmushi a little bit more interesting. First, let's cut 5 to 6 shiitake mushrooms into thin slices. Next, slice a block of tofu into bite-sized cubes. This tofu is firm, but you could use soft silken tofu also. As for what else you could use for this filling, shrimp, crab, edamame or various other vegetables will also work just fine. But for now, when prepared, place shiitakes and tofu to one side. For the main topping for this chawanmushi, we want to use some fresh scallops. What I got here is 6 hand-dived scallops that are not too big, but that'll do just fine. Simply slice these in half to make them look like we spent more money on them, then that's pretty much it. We're going to cook these separately to the chawanmushi. If we add them too early, they'll simply overcook. Keep the scallops to one side and we'll cook these later. Now that everything's prepared, we can move on to making the soup for chawanmushi. Remember that dashi stock that we made earlier? Well, we need to go and measure out 600 ml exactly of that. Place the 600 ml to one side and the rest you can keep for another day. Next, in a separate bowl, we're going to need to weigh out 200 grams of whole egg. This is around 4 eggs. And the ratio for this soup is 3 parts liquid to 1 part egg. So in this case, 600 grams of dashi to 200 grams of whole egg. And above is me simply struggling to measure out 200 grams worth. When measured out, we first want to whisk the egg until nice and smooth. Make sure to thoroughly whisk as any lumps in the chawanmushi is never going to be good. Next we can add the 600 ml of dashi. Finally, to season the soup, we want to add 25 ml of light soy, 25 ml of mirin, and around half a teaspoon of salt. Whisk well again to combine all the ingredients and the soup is pretty much ready. When the soup's ready, the final thing I like to do is to pass it through a fine sieve. Again, this is to ensure there's no segments of egg left in the broth, and we're pretty much ready to go. Make sure to not waste a drop, and at this point we're now ready to finally build the chawanmushi. First things first, we need to decide which bowl we're going to steam the chawanmushi in. Anything this size will do perfectly, but this time I'm going to go with this one. To the bowl, let's first add a couple of slices of tofu, and this will give the chawanmushi a little bit of body. Next, go ahead and add a few slices of sliced shiitakes. Arrange the shiitake so they look nice and tidy, then fill the bowl 3/4 of the way full with the broth. Finally, arrange the shiitakes one more time, then try and remove any air bubbles that may rise to the top. All that's left to do now is to cover tightly with cling film, and this thing is now ready to steam. To cook this chawanmushi, I'm going to go with the old school bamboo steaming method. However, you could do this in a deep pan slightly filled with water also. Load the bamboo steamer up with a few of these chawanmushi, then we're pretty much ready to go. A few people have issues when steaming these, but I find low and slow works best. Place the bamboo steamer onto a double boiler that's onto a medium heat, and we can go ahead and let this steam for around 20 minutes. Whilst the chawanmushi is steaming, we can move on to cooking the scallops. In a hot pan with a touch of oil, we can add the scallops one by one. To cook these, this will literally take around 45 seconds each side. I like to add the scallops like a clock, so I know which one was added first. And after 45 seconds, flip the scallops over and cook for a further 45 seconds on the other side. When nice and golden brown, these guys are pretty much ready. Remove from the heat, then we'll add these at the very end. A few other things I like to add is chives and Ikura. And if you're unsure what Ikura is, then this is salmon roe. Don't worry, you can skip this. But this is one of my favourite things to eat, and it goes really well with chawanmushi. Talking of which, let's see how things are getting on there. After 20 minutes I checked in and the chawanmushi is now ready. Ever so carefully remove from the steamer, then place to one side to cool briefly. This thing is super hot and I may have burnt myself a few times whilst doing this. The chawanmushi at this point should be set and have a nice jiggle to it. And all that's left to do now is to make this thing look nice and fancy. And that's it for this recipe. The chawanmushi is ready to go. I had quite a lot of fun making this recipe, and it's quite nice to eat something like this from the comfort of your own home. The combination of ikura, scallops and an umami bomb of a chawanmushi is pretty hard to beat, and this is one of those recipes if you're into seafood then you gotta go and try it right away. And as for the verdict, this one deserves a clap. A solid good job to all the ingredients. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. If you want to see more stuff like this in the future, feel free to slap that subscribe button. And with all that said, see you guys in the next one. Take care, and as always, peace.